So what we always say, Bitcoin is a peaceful, fair, and equitable way for us to settle our differences. As everyone embraces it, peace will spread, equity will spread, fairness will spread, truth will spread, toxicity should decay.
Bitcoin Zella stands out with its simplicity and clarity. We've crafted an experience that anyone can dive into, whether you're a crypto expert or just a new to the crypto world. Now guess who keeps his eye on us? The author of best-selling book Rich Dad Poor Dad, Robert Kiyosaki. And we want to take this opportunity and thank all the people who trusted us, and we read every comment. And the best part, it's free. Subscribing now means you will get all new information for free. Don't just follow the trends, stay ahead of them. Subscribe to Bitcoin Zella today and enjoy the new edge.
Michael Saylor dives into the future of stocks and bonds backed by Bitcoin, exploring opportunities, risks, and big possibilities. Let's watch.
I think the market's in getting educated mode. I mean, I just had 25 investors and I asked them, how familiar are you with this, and they're like, no. Tell us about Bitcoin, and is Bitcoin going to get banned, or not? And we literally have to go back to, Bitcoin was actually not going to get banned in 2023.
Right.
And then you have to lay out the crypto industry in general, and then you explain the various credit instruments, then you explain the equity. And so most of the market's still getting educated. If you wanted a metaphor, imagine that the year was 1870 and people are starting to refine crude oil, and there's a bunch of companies being launched, to do crude oil things, and then someone comes up with an idea for plexiglass or Lexan, and there's polyester, and there's lycra, and there's nylon, and there's all these possible petrochemical
applications,
products, and there's, and someone's talking about kerosene, and some guy saying, well, I think we could use diesel or gasoline, and some guy talks about asphalt, and, and all the investors are sitting around saying, is this a good idea? How big could this industry be? And they're still struggling with how big could the kerosene business be in 180 countries. And by the way, the first application of kerosene was lamps to light your home. It was light, and then it became engines, and then it became heaters, and then it became jet fuel, and it's rocket fuel today.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the industry is just so embryonic that, the companies are learning how to explain what they're doing. They're deciding what they're going to do. The companies are deciding what their business model will be. The investors are trying to understand the business models and the industry. The regulators, are evolving the regulations, and this is all happening in real time. So this is the digital gold rush, and the 10 years from 2025 to 2035. There's going to be a lot of different business models, a lot of different products created, and a lot of different companies launched, and a lot of money made, and there'll be a lot of mistakes made, and a lot of fortunes created, and this is what the chaos of the marketplace.
Coinbase CEO Brian Armstrong is once again making headlines with his bold prediction for Bitcoin's future. In a recent interview with Fox Business, Armstrong doubled down on his belief that Bitcoin could soar to $1 million, saying there's a good chance this milestone will be reached before 2030. His confidence rests heavily on the expectation that regulatory clarity in the U.S. will unlock a major wave of growth for the cryptocurrency. Armstrong highlighted the Genius Act and broader market structure legislation as potential game changers, noting that if the U.S. embraces Bitcoin more openly, it could inspire other G20 nations to follow. He also pointed to growing institutional interests, explaining that large pools of capital are only just beginning to gain exposure to Bitcoin, with even more waiting on the sidelines. Comparing Bitcoin to gold, Armstrong described it as a unique hybrid asset, one that can act as both a risk hedge in uncertain times and a growth investment. For him, the focus isn't short-term price swings, but long-term momentum.
In a world of that's U.S. dollar, the U.S. economy is growing, and the dollar is the king of the world. It's the world reserve currency, and there was no world war after World War II, right? Mm-hmm. So we haven't had a massive disruptive world war. then you're living in a very particular situation, a particular time, and you could fall into. In calculus, we call it a particular solution to a differential equation. If all of the boundary conditions are set, and if this, 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 then you can just plug in this number and you'll get out that answer. And that is true as long as you don't change any of the boundary conditions of the assumption. If you've got the solution for aluminum, and then I change the metal to steel, then the formula doesn't work. So at that point, you can't use a particular solution. You have to use the homogeneous solution. You have to be not the engineer, but you have to be the physicist. You can't be the trade craftsman with the simple lookup table of the answer. You actually have to derive it from first principles. So what you see is most people have never in their life had to derive anything from first principles. They've used the particular solutions given to them by someone that taught them the answer. And that breaks down when, for example, your entire currency collapses. For example, if you live in a economy where the currency is collapsing, like Lebanon, and they freeze your bank account and the currency goes to zero, or anywhere in Africa, or if you lived in Argentina when the currency collapsed, then if you actually owned anything with cash flows, they're all worthless. So the irony, of course, is one of these good traditional safe assets that generates cash flows. Well, not in Nigerian currency, not in the Bolivar, not in the peso, not in the Lebanese currency, not in the Iraqi or the Afghani currency. I can give you not in a Russian currency, before the collapse of the ruble that took place at the turn of the century, 96 or something. So the people that have these ideas, they have a particular set of solutions that work in a very stable, closed ecosystem that's never been challenged either with external stress or never encountered a new idea. When the people that will get Bitcoin will either come out of very chaotic environments, collapsing currency environments where they had to think for themselves, or they'll be at their base kind of scientists, first principles thinkers, people that question everything and rederive it. So I think the great irony is again the CEO of Vanguard saying Bitcoin is not an investable asset because it doesn't have cash flows, and then the largest shareholder of my company being Vanguard.
Ironic.
The most ironic outcome is most likely, according to Mr. Musk.
Washington, D.C. just witnessed one of the strangest spectacles in recent memory. A 12-foot golden statue of former President Donald Trump holding a massive Bitcoin. The towering figure briefly stood on 3rd Street near the National Mall on September 17, not far from the Capitol, and instantly became a magnet for photos, debate, and jokes across the internet. According to a permit from the National Park Service, the temporary installation was meant to honor Trump's vocal support for cryptocurrency and to spark conversation about the future of money. Organizers behind the stunt, including meme coin enthusiasts connected to Pump.Fun, described it as a symbol of politics colliding with my natural innovation. Whether people saw it as art, satire, or outright absurdity, the golden Trump Bitcoin statue went viral and left everyone talking. If you have been watching so far, thank you so much for watching, and do not forget to subscribe to Bitcoinzilla for daily news, all for free. That's all for today's video. Until next time.